I think I'm saying that we struggle all our lives to answer it. That it's the struggle that is important. That's what helps us to define our place in the universe.
This is Beverly, Dr. Beverly, Dr. Beverly Crusher.
Look where we are. Here, all of us, in this moment. So let's do what we spent our entire lives learning to be great at.
And this is Crusher Convo. And welcome to Crusher Convo, where we're crushing the conversation one episode at a time. Returning to the guest chair to talk of this year's Trek Talks from Star Trek Enterprise, we have John Billingsley. Welcome back, John.
Thank you. Thanks for having me back. That's life.
Life's been up and down, actually. One thing that the last time I saw you, I think was in July, and I think I had talked to you about, like, I had lost 2 of my cats. Well, the third one passed away a month later.
Oh.
It was, yeah, so I lost all 3 of my cats in 7 months, and it was like for all different reasons, and it was so tragic, but we ended up adopting 2 other kittens, and I adopted Beverly right after that. And she's been a wonderful addition, but we're still just reeling over the passing, especially the one that passed after I saw you. He was only 9 and he just woke up and we had to put him down. It was just very quick and sudden. And so those are always the hardest.
Oh,
so,
yeah. Oh, I'm so sorry. I
I
love my cats, and I have been, in fact, dealing with my boy cat all day long, who, for reasons that are eluding me, just is demanding my attention every second. I'm sure it has something to do with food. He doesn't like the food. He believes there's some other kind of food in the universe that he knows I must have secreted somewhere in the house that he wants to try. It's like, you eat the same food every day. Why all of a sudden today it's an issue is beyond me.
It's, you know what, they're just like that, right? Like, I lost Obi-Wan in May. He gave me 18 wonderful years, and so I was like, okay, this is fine. I wasn't ready to adopt, so I was just like, we'll just have the kitten, and Mr. Grimbleshanks was the other one. But when he passed away, I was like, okay, I got to get a second cat. The kitten was not doing well being on her own, so got the new one. So we just have the 2, and then the rabbit, and we're good.
And then the rabbit. I like that. And then the rabbit.
And then
the burros. Oh, and the turtles. And, well, there's, of course, the camel and the aardvark and the skunk.
Let's not forget the dog. Yeah.
Yeah.
The dog is still at my mom's.
I'm like that with books. Well, Bonnie, I got a few books. A few thousand books.
A few thousand. Just a couple. No, few. Yeah. We
That's
do have a dog, but
Cat is mad. I am going through some books right now, and I have put them out on the bed, which is one of the places he likes to sleep. I have told him, I've been very clear about this. You have a lot of places in the house to sleep. You don't have to sleep on this bed. Right now, it is being utilized. I don't think he's accepting that.
No, he won't.
They're not,
at this moment, he wants the bed.
Yeah. They're not rational creatures. They're not open to debate and discussion. It's like the Republicans. Oh, I started. Oh, holy cow. I'm sorry. A New Year's resolution. I screwed it up already.
We'll make sure that no one saw that. No, I'm just kidding. I do have a dog, actually, but I think my mom's kind of adopted her. She's been over at my mom's house this whole time, so I don't know who she belongs to. She's older. The dog's almost 13, and so she's kind of retired. I feel like she's in a retirement home with my mom and my aunt. I'm like, she's good.
Yeah.
She's living the life over there. Yeah. Now, before we actually get started.
Okay. We haven't started yet? This is all.
We haven't started. This was all just us chatting over our cats.
Okay.
Totally different.
All right.
But before we actually get started of why we're here, I did start watching Enterprise. Okay.
That's right. 3. I forgot about that. You've never watched Enterprise. That's right. I made merciless fun of you, I think, last time.
I did. Yes, you did. Now, I want to say this, and now I'm nervous, but I'm going to say it. Denobulin.
Denobulin? Say it one more time.
Denobulin.
Very good.
Okay, yes. I'm not too fond of the Zindi story where I'm at, but it's fine.
Oh yeah, I wasn't. This series had its
I really enjoyed season 1 and season 2, but the third season, Yeah, but the third season I was all like, it's kind of all over the place. But I hear 4 is great, so I can't wait to get to that one.
Yeah,
But
season 3. Well, for you can ask me any question you want. I don't mince my words about it, as you know.
I do know.
What I liked and what I didn't like about Enterprise, and I had very mixed feelings about season 3.
Oh, I bet. Apparently, a lot of fans did too. I'm not on Twitter anymore, but I'm on Blue Sky and Thread. So when I'm talking on there, they're like, yes, we have the same issues. I was like, oh, good. I'm on the same page.
Yeah. I mean, what was odd is that the idea of having tension and stakes did allow for some individual episodes that weren't necessarily about the Zindi, but were about, we got to get going because we're pursuing the Zindi to have
Right.
more, snap. But the characters themselves, and particularly in the post 911 era, it just felt to me sort of
That's
Trek
what the fans said.
24. Yeah.
That's exactly what they said, especially after the 9/11. It was like we wanted something to escape, and it was kind of like shoved in our face of like what was going on, right? So I was like,
yeah,
oh, makes sense.
yeah. I mean, I can elaborate on that a little bit more if I'm asked. But although candidly, I haven't seen season 3 in years, and it was pointed out to me recently that the ending does kind of redeem it a little bit in terms of maybe making it a little less xenophobic than it initially appears to be.
Okay. So no spoilers. I haven't gotten there yet. No spoilers. There was a couple of Phlox episodes that I liked. There was one where he was treating an alien who was like an enemy of his people.
Yeah.
So he had to choose between like being a doctor and stuff. And
there's that. Have you seen the episode where I run around naked?
I did see that one. Yes. It was funny because I was like, T'Pol's there. He wouldn't be running around naked. So something's going on. And I was right.
Particularly after the whole decon chamber episode. I ain't running around naked near T'Pol. She can't keep her hands off me.
I mean,
yeah.
Did you know though that she was on
I did.
Last season of Lower Decks? Yes.
Now we started yet, or is this still us chatting?
It's we're chatting. It's fine.
Oh, we're still chatting.
We'll mix it in. Yeah, it's fine. Okay. But I was so surprised. I was like, "Is that her?" And it was so great.
Yeah, I know. I've been trying to get in touch with her for ages to see if she could be on Trek Talks, but
I know. What was Mike's magic? What did he do?
I don't know. I'm hesitant. Mike's appearing, and I kind of like gently said, "Could you put me in touch with?" But I can understand why there would be some sensitivity about that. So it's like
right.
It was on the show. We like each other fine.
Yeah. It was a great surprise for the fans. But but you know what? Let's start off, and first let's just tell the listeners exactly what is Trek Talks.
Okay, so this is us starting now.
Yes, there you go.
I need a firing.
We've literally been we've been literally recording. This is all part of it. But yes, let's go ahead and jump in.
So your sense of when it starts is basically whenever you wanted to start, and anything you don't like, you let it out. Is that it? I see.
It's crushing the conversation, which is any conversation.
So theoretically, the entire conversation could be reduced to "Welcome, see you later." I like that. You're like Johnny Carson. That's what he used to do. He'd have a guest on, and if he didn't like the way it was going, he'd say, "Let's go to commercial break." They would come back, and there'd be another guest.
I am old enough to remember Johnny Carson, so yes.
I'm old enough to remember young Johnny Carson. Yes. Well, what was your question?
So tell the listeners about Trek Talk. Let's talk about Trek Talk. Yes.
Trek Talks, for those of you, and if anybody is a podcast slut, you're hearing me talk about Trek Talks every time you turn around. This will be our 4th annual fundraiser to raise money and awareness for an organization very dear to my heart called Hollywood Food Coalition. Based in Los Angeles, Hollywood Food Coalition rescues almost 3 million pounds of food a year. We share it with about 150 other social service organizations to augment and buttress their meal programs. So think battered women's shelter that does a great job with the people staying in the shelter, but doesn't necessarily serve great food. We try and work with a raft of organizations to make sure that their programs are working effectively because they're feeding the people that come to them for help. And additionally, we serve a hot, nourishing multi-course meal to all comers 7 nights a week, and we help them with an array of services, also kind of rooted in the idea that through coalition building, we are helping to cement relationships with other not-for-profits. So folks who come to us for a nice meal, we're able to connect them to a housing program, to a drug and alcohol rehabilitation center, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All of this work, needless to say, costs a little money. So we are trying to raise money to support those services through something we call Trek Talks. This is an 8-hour digital extravaganza. I call it a convention without pants because I don't wear pants. I'm the moderator. We have all
Lori from
sorts.
Trek movie was wondering about that, so thank you for answering.
Yes. It's become a thing. I think I'm the only person who's actually kind of like, taking that mantle up. Come on, take your pants off. Sit back down.
The Tom Billingsley moment. Yes.
Yeah. But we have all sorts of panels. We are this year, for instance, Bob Picardo and Kate Mulgrew are going to be on. We have a fabulous Lower Decks panel. We have a Discovery reunion with 8 or 9 members of the cast, including Sonequa Martin Green and Wilson Cruz. We have science panel. We have the writers who've written famous Star Trek character autobiographies. We have Nana Visitor, all sorts of wonderful surprises. And the gag is, you don't have to watch and donate, but would you be able to live with yourself if you didn't? Probably not. So Saturday the 18th, 10 in the morning to 6 in the evening, 10 o'clock Pacific till 6 o'clock. A great way to experience what it's like to go to a fabulous convention without having to wear pants and support the Hollywood Food Coalition. It's on YouTube, and you can also go to tracktalks.net to learn more about us. You could look at some of the earlier incarnations of Track Talks. This is our 4th whack at the Piñata. What else? What else can I tell you?
Well, you know what I was going to say, like, you have such wonderful people that are joining you this year. How does it feel for you? Like, what does it mean to you that, all these wonderful people from the Star Trek franchise come together and support this?
It's great. And this is happening in all sorts of other ways. There are different things that different people in our community are doing all the time. I'm also involved in something called the Pancreatic Cancer Action Network effort. We do with Jonathan Frakes, Armin Shimmerman, and Kitty. We help raise money and awareness to fight pancreatic cancer. I know there are individuals in Star Trek who are doing extraordinary things for their own charities and organizations. It's part and parcel of what I think makes this franchise really special, is that the mission and the vision that Roddenberry had to kind of come together to put our common interests first. It animates a lot of us, and really does, particularly if you've been in the franchise for a while, it really does spur us to do more. And consequently, it's a pretty easy ask. If people are available, they'll happily help, as am I for other causes too. It is a lovely, lovely universe to be a part of.
That was the one thing that I learned when I started watching Star Trek in 2022, was that unity of helping others, and that stuff, like you say, for PanCam, and of course the Hollywood Food Coalition. Todd Stafschwick has a Pablove Foundation that's near and dear to him that he just raised money for. So yeah, I think that was one of the biggest things that I felt really good about, where I was all like, oh, I want to
Todd's
join in and come in.
Todd's Dungeons and Dragons event is terrific.
Yeah.
I think Kate Gates was on it this year. I think she had like a 6-hour cram session with Bonnie Gordon to learn the fundamental rules.
She did. She did.
Yeah.
It was so awesome. I was there for the whole event, and it was great seeing that. Like, Ed Speleers literally stayed up from midnight till 5:30 in the morning in London to do this event to raise money. So it was a great, it was just awesome to see. Yeah. And so far, Trek Talks, though, has raised over $270,000 for the Hollywood Food Coalition.
Yeah, at least, if not more, because, I mean, what's interesting, and there's always a ripple effect, that I think is important, is that as you keep doing it and the word gets out and the word gets out and the word gets out, people end up, maybe they donate later in the year, or somebody says, put me on I'll donate on a monthly basis. I think when all things are considered, we probably through Trek Talks have raised, probably closer to $350,000 when you factor in, the
all of
donation, that. Yeah, the donations that don't necessarily come in on the day.
Right. But how does that make you feel to know that, you've raised so much money for this organization and stuff like that?
It's funny because, I 8 years or so ago, when I got involved with the Food Coalition, I joined in a very roll up your sleeves, hands-on way, making fruit salad and washing dishes, and then recognizing that the board could stand to be strengthened and that maybe we were lacking a strategic plan, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I was very involved for years. It was in essence a full-time unpaid job. I kind of put acting on the back burner to try and make sure that the organization could further itself through expanding and not redefining, but elaborating its mission of how it could help bring food and resources to more and more people in our community. Mm-hmm. I had never intended to become a fundraiser qua. So when I stepped down off the board, obviously fundraising is a big part of what any not-for-profit does. And certainly things like, hey, we need a better database, and hey, we need to make sure we've hired a development director, and we need to figure out how to get some grants in on time. That's always a part of the work. Mm-hmm. But the idea that I would become more oriented towards fundraising exclusively. So I feel good about it. And also, how'd that happen?
You blinked and you're like, wait, what just happened right now?
Yeah. I mean, it has been, I couldn't be happier for the organization. We were able to hire a wonderful executive director, Anali Ray, who people will meet when they watch, hopefully, on the 18th. She will kick us off along with Rod Roddenberry, whose support is always integral to our efforts. And she has been a game changer for us. She has so much positivity and great good spirits, and has a deep understanding of the vision of, which to me is critical, coalition building as a necessary means to achieve bigger ends. Social service organizations tend to be siloed. It's just the nature of the beast. We're all poor, and we're all struggling to serve our constituencies. There are things that we can only accomplish together. And I'm very proud of the fact that Anali and our organization understands that and is taking real steps to try and come up with mechanisms by which those collaborations and cross-pollinations can work. I mean, for instance, one of the things we built, what we call the Exchange, is a place where rescued food lands. And from there, it gets shared both with our own kitchen, because we serve a hot meal every night, but also with the other organizations in town. We're moving to a new exchange space, and we're bringing 3 partner organizations into that expanded space, all of whom will be doing more or less the same thing. So it's a way of metastasizing the growth of population served through partnership building. Writing grants together, finding administrative functions that you can share, working together to get the story told. It's really important to me when we talk and when I talk that we talk about our partner organizations. Village Family Services does amazing things with street kids. On and on and on and on. SELA, which is a wonderful organization that is committed to helping people who are living in encampments all through a good chunk of eastern Los Angeles. These organizations collaborating, which to me is Star Trek, it is the essence of Star Trek. It's what rebuilds a tattered social safety net,
Oh yeah. My uncle, he is a pretty well-known author in the Chicano community. Okay. Because my family is from Mexico. I'm a second generation American, and he created a bookstore to not only sell his books, but also to help get kids off of the streets and not join the gangs. Because my uncle was in the gangs, growing up back in the 60s and 70s and stuff like that. And he was able to get out, which is not an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
But
what's his name?
My uncle's name is Luis J. Rodriguez.
Okay.
And his bookstore is called Tia Chuchas, which was a great aunt, I think, of mine. And what his goal was to introduce kids who are on the streets, whether broken homes, whatever their situation is, teach them about arts of poetry, just writing, painting, anything of that sort. So he is a cultural center for these kids, and it helps them not fall into that path.
Where's the store located?
Silmar, I believe it is. So yeah, He's in San Fernando, but I believe that's where the
The
store
only
is.
reason I'm asking, aside from which, why not plug him? Because huzzah, what a wonderful thing to do. Yes, I was just reading something in the LA Times. It sounds so familiar, and I was just skimming it, so I'm not positive that was him, but it was
Well,
somebody
it
who
might have
told a
been
similar
because
story, certainly.
his book just hit 30 years. He wrote a book about his life in the gangs. It was called Always Running, and it just hit 30 years.
Okay.
And he was one of the poet laureates of LA back in
Oh,
the 20,000. Yeah, like
I've been waiting for that phone call, by the way. It's like, now granted, I only write limericks and doggerel, but still, I mean, come on.
You're the next one. I have hope.
All right. There once was a guy from Tibet.
Yeah. Yeah. So and then the bookstore itself, I believe, just hit 23 years. Yeah. So I bet you have have heard of him. He's very well, like I said, he's
now,
very well known.
Stillmar's a little off my beaten track. Otherwise, I would drop by because I love to meet bookstore owners and I love to visit bookstores. You'll be surprised.
Yeah, he's usually like, especially when they always have those events with the Takana community and stuff like that all over LA. My uncle, you know, that's just how he is. And then him and my aunt, his wife, go around in countries and help with the poor. And you know, I texted him once and he's like, I'm sorry, I was in Guatemala in the dumps helping with the, and I'm all, he acted like what he was having for breakfast. So I was like, Theo, this is awesome. Like, why aren't you telling more of this? You know,
that's great.
But that's the kind of guy he is. He's not one to be like, look what I'm doing, you know? So,
you know, it's funny because I always get torn because, you know, I totally get the idea that people are modest and don't want to sound like they're being self-aggrandizing, but I think it's really important for people to kind of celebrate the things they've done because it's what's gonna pull us through. You know, as a nation and as a world, the recognition that there are a lot of people doing really wonderful and lovely things, and that it's that spirit in our communities, in our neighborhoods, in our towns, and our cities that will preserve us. I'm pretty political, as you know, and so, you know, for me, at a time when I kind of worry that the federal government is going to be forced to turn its back on people in need, I think it's all the more incumbent upon us as citizens, even if we're not necessarily political, to figure out ways to give back to our communities. So
yeah, that was just something I always grew up with when it came to my uncle. He was the very artsy one. And so yeah, I kind of learned a lot of that from him. So there's your plug, Uncle Louie. So coming back to the Hollywood Food Coalition, I kind of wanted to talk about this little tidbit here. Now, we talked about before about mental health. Okay. And how it is not a top priority in this country. And I saw this little snippet on the HOFOCO's website about community wellness. And it says here that the food is often the most pressing and needs for our, you know, what guests face. It is far from the only one. Our community wellness program helps address these additional physical and mental health needs. We offer mobile health and vision clinics and refer to social services such as employment and housing. We also pass out shoes, clothes, hygiene kits, blankets, and more. And I remember when you were on Gates's podcast, you had said if they weren't mentally ill before they were homeless, it definitely happens after the fact. So
yeah, PTSD, if nothing else. I mean, it is. Yeah.
And I mean, I just wanted to kind of touch more on your thoughts about this. And I thought that was so great that you're not just, yes, it's great that they're getting a meal. Let's, you know, we're not going to.
Well, and the point of the point of the meal is also, you know, the consistency of regular service and the idea that you're going to be there every day is what brings people back. And when they come back, you can, you know, get to know them. And from getting to know people and getting to learn about them and from them getting to trust you, that's when you can kind of make the deeper connection. Because it's one thing, you're right, to give somebody a meal. It's another thing to get somebody in a home. But the idea that you're going to be able to convince somebody to come in off the streets, possibly to leave their friends behind, possibly to move into a situation where there are going to be rules and regulations that, you know, might be perceived as anathema to them. You have to build a dialogue. And I think as much as anything for me, and a phrase we use a lot, is food is the way in. It is the one thing that everybody needs on a consistent basis, morning, noon, night, although many of the people we serve are only able to have one meal a day. But the regularity and consistency of the service is what allows us to connect people to other service providers. The UCLA Medical Vision Dental, sometimes programs that come to us, for instance, for a lot of the people who've been coming to us, that has been their lifeline to medical services for years.
Mhm.
What our ultimate goal is to have an expanded campus, a bigger campus, and there are challenges in Los Angeles with real estate, frankly. So it's taking longer than we would like. But the idea of having a home of our own is a campus that's big enough to contain, on a regular basis, service providers that cover the waterfront in terms of people's needs. Right now, we kind of have to okay, you can get in on Wednesday, and then we've got you shoehorned in on Thursday night, but we've got this much space. So
Mhm.
that's not as much of a possibility as we would like. We're always wanting to make sure that we can give people some of the emergency supplies they need. I mean, obviously, when it starts to rain, we want to be able to provide umbrellas and ponchos and tarps. In the summer months, we want to be able to provide, water and saline tablets and anything that might be necessary in crisis situations. That's sort of emergency services. Service provider contacts is at the heart of what's necessary, though, and it's tricky. We have, we're one of the biggest cities in the world, and
Yeah.
we have 87 separate municipalities, all of whom have their own somewhat Byzantine governing structures. Trying to connect service providers across this vast and disparate set of government entities is really tough. And that's one of the things that, again, as coalition builders, I think it's important that we and other social service providers recognize you have to link. You have to link really intimately with your partners.
Oh yeah. And I mean, and like you said, it's not just the food. There's so much more to it that people need. Like I work in hospitality. I'm a housekeeping manager. And a lot of the times we have a couple of pretty big, homeless shelters. And so if anything that I'm like, I got to get rid of towels or sheets
Mhm.
or anything, or even we used to have like little bottles of shampoo and conditioner and
Mhm.
everything like that. I donated thousands before our renovation because we were going to dispensers and I just gave them all away. I was like, here you go. They got hundreds of
Right.
towels. It was,
Yeah.
and it was just something that they needed because of how many people that they're bringing in.
Yeah. And, I think it's important. And again, I'm pretty political. We are doing triage at,
Oh
at
yeah.
the at the local level, but it's necessary triage. In
Mhm.
a less benighted society, we would have more people available that we are all agreeing collectively as a larger society, as a nation, even as a world. We would be recognizing that we have to put our resources into caring for the people who are not going to be able to care for themselves. It makes fiscal sense, if nothing else. The amount of money it takes for society to keep somebody alive who is mentally ill or who is inclined towards being a criminal. It would be so much better to have more school teachers. It would be so much better to have more counselors. It would be so much better to have more drug and alcohol rehabilitation programs. It would be cheaper. It would be smarter. It would be healthier. We can try and do what we can do on a local level. I wish we had a deeper understanding of what it meant to try and do that on a national level. For instance, the one program that keeps more people fed than any other is a food stamp program. And for all of our efforts at feeding people and for all the food banks and for all the shelters, yada, 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 it is a food stamp program that was created by the federal government many, many years ago that is constantly under threat. It's going to be under threat again. This new administration is going to attempt to create work requirements, which sounds just so great, when you're a multi-billionaire. Well, you know what? They should work for this.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
These people who, for various reasons, have a real hard time.
Oh yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's really hard to pay for childcare. It's really hard to, get to work when you don't have access to public transportation or when you can't afford to have an automobile, when you may not even have a roof over your head. Get a job and then we'll feed you. The idea that is on some level a national response, it just makes my stomach turn.
Yeah, because for me, for instance, when the economy was just not very good in California, we ended up having to leave, my parents and I and stuff like that, and we were homeless for 2 years, and we were kind of bouncing, trying to get like an apartment, and just couldn't afford it. We got evicted. We were bouncing out from back and forth. This was the first couple of years of my daughter's life.
Yeah.
I had food stamps, and that's what helped keep food on the table, especially for my kid. But it was very hard to find a job at the time.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of health issues. My mom was sick. My dad was struggling trying to find a job.
Yeah. And it's all connected. It's all connected.
All connected.
If we have crappy health insurance and certain things aren't covered and you're having to pay out of pocket,
Yeah.
you know, yeah. Anyway, don't get me started.
I know. It just reminded me of my time. I mean, like I said, this was back when my daughter was very, very little. So 2008 to 2011, finally we got our feet on the ground and went up from there. But even like, for instance, my job, like the company I work for, we provide transportation. We have bus passes for those who do not have access to like a car or be able to pay for their own insurance or stuff, because it's such a struggle even here in Idaho. And so they're like, hey, if this is your problem, we will help pay here's a bus pass on us. And it's even to go get food.
The statistic that staggers me, and this is probably, I don't know whether this is up to date, because it's one I've been using for a while, because it's something that I remember reading and looking into, and it was true for a time, and I suspect it is still basically true, which is that 40% of Americans, adults, if they met an unexpected $400 bill, their roof caves in, their car breaks down, they wouldn't have the scratch to pay it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's our country, the richest country in the history of the world. And I think it speaks to our values. It speaks to, our values, that we are somehow in this odd way in this pickle together, and we're not really prepared to quite face it collectively, for reasons that have to do with some I think false and frankly kind of bullshit value structure that has been corrupted inside of us to make us think that pull yourself up by your own bootstraps, you bastard, is the best way to greet people in need.
Yeah, it's just it's one of those things where I don't know, it's just not feasible. It's not a feasible idea to help everybody that's in need right now. And like, even my brother-in-law is homeless, and because he has a drug addiction. And like you said, if we had those resources,
it's feasible. We don't choose to.
It's feasible. It's just we don't choose to.
Don't choose to. And what is also to me so nuts is Denver had this program for a while. I don't know if they still do, but many years ago, they decided that the amount of money it took to care for the people who were most down and out, when you're sending EMTs and cops and ambulances to people who were, really like, whoa, every day was, crisis, emergency.
Right.
They decided what they would do is they would open 24/7 concierge level housing and take the people who were the experiencing the worst crises and put them in those compounds. That's a bad word to use. Put them in those structures and have the necessary resources on campus. And regardless of whether you think that is a right or moral thing to do, should you help people who are experiencing those kinds of problems, and what have they done to bring it on themselves? Just on a cost efficient level, they spent less money than they would have spent if they were spending that money on the EMTs and the firemen and the cops and et cetera.
Wow.
And that to me, I think is, it costs so much money to keep somebody in prison.
Yeah.
It costs so much money to spend on the back end of somebody's tragedy instead of on the front end. If we had more school teachers and fewer prisons, if we had more counselors, and
oh yeah, it's definitely just an overall shit show, as you were kind of saying earlier, and it's like, how do we dig ourselves out of this hole? And like stuff like Trek Talks, as much as it's your own little corner of just trying to help, it's a very important quarter, right?
Well,
It's doing its
and to my point
due
about your
diligence.
uncle, and I think why I'm glad you mentioned him, and he is to be celebrated. That there are so many people in this world who are trying to figure out exactly how to respond when society doesn't seem to quite be able collectively to respond. It's a strange thing because the individual impulse to help, it suggests that we are good and decent people. Sometimes we don't seem to recognize that individualistic impulse to help could, if we thought of it differently, wouldn't even maybe be as necessary if we kind of leaned into the architecture of the society.
Right.
But I also don't want to lose sight of the fact that individual impulse to help is necessary and does go a long way towards obviating some of the pain.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Now, kind of to go a little, I guess, more on a happier note here.
Oh, a happier note. All right. Well, yes. Macaroons, puppy dog.
No more cats, though. We already talked enough about our cats. But I actually do have a question, a fan question for you. So I'm going to start the penny for your thoughts section.
Penny for your thoughts.
Kind of cut you there. So sorry.
Right. I'm going to try not to steer this back into bleakness. I promise.
No, you're fine. You're fine. Please do you, John.
All right.
Now,
all right.
Our audio question, though, comes from TV guy Grayson over at Blue Sky. So let's listen to his clip.
Hi, Jesse. Hi, John. It is such a pleasure to talk to my favorite Star Trek doctor. I always appreciated how Phlox felt truly alien, not just in appearance, but in mindset. His calm acceptance of cultural differences and his ability to remain unshaken by the strange or unexpected made him such a unique counterpart to the wide-eyed human crew. As a denobulan from an older spacefaring race, Phlox brought this subtle confidence and a respect for others, even when the humans were still finding their footing. Truly a unique character. I wanted to ask you about your career outside of Trek, though. Your IMDb is like a greatest hits of one and done guest appearances, from Northern Exposure to The Practice to Felicity, Gilmore Girls, The West Wing, Stargate, 6 Feet Under, CSI, Hawaii Five-0. The list goes on. While I imagine actors often seek the stability of being a series regular, I wonder if you enjoy the freedom of these guest roles. Is there something satisfying about coming in for one episode, making your mark, and moving on? I personally love the surprise of recognizing a favorite actor in an unexpected show. Thanks for your time, and I'll be keeping an eye out for you in your next role.
So there's the question. Do you enjoy the freedom of a guest role, going in or making your mark and moving on to the next project?
Well, first off, thank you. What lovely remarks. I appreciate that.
You're his favorite doctor.
That's sweet. I blush. Bob Picardo, can you hear?
I know, does Boots McGately hear this?
Boots McGately. Yeah, that's a tricky question. I mean, first off, it's not as if I have a choice. You'd always want to be a series regular because it pays you a lot more money. But of course, more often than not, I've had 4 series regular gigs, 3 flops and a semi-flop. Enterprise did last 4 years, but at the time we were the show that killed the franchise. And the other 3 only lasted 13 episodes. A number of pilots that didn't get picked up and go to series, recurring in some things. You definitely fill in with guest stars and bit parts in movies, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Sometimes it's great if you get a guest star that's meaty and interesting. Candidly, Felicity, for instance, I delivered a refrigerator. I was on screen for, I think, 5 lines. I ran over Kerry Russell. She wouldn't know who the hell I was. I delivered you a refrigerator. And so it's not like there's a tremendous amount of glory to be taken or satisfaction from a number of guest star roles. When it's fun, playing a serial killer in Cold Case, for instance, recently getting to play potential love interest for Kathy Bates, I was a potential love interest in my own mind in Matlock. It's great. There's always something odd about coming into a show where you don't know anybody, you know? I mean, the nice thing about being a series regular is it's your house. You know the crew, you know, hey, Charlie, how you doing? Oh, hey, oh my God, congratulations on the... When you don't know a soul, it's a little bit like showing up to school on the first day and like, hi, my name is... Oh, sorry. Oh, I'm John. Nice to meet everybody. You know, I'm not particularly shy, but there is a certain amount of comfortability that comes with being part of something that goes on for a while.
No, I remember when on your interview that we had in July, we talked about Bones because I'm a huge fan of the show. And you were saying that when you went in, though, they were so nice and just, you know, welcomed you. Emily was super sweet, you know, so.
And usually that is the case. I mean, I could count on the fingers of one hand where you kind of feel like, you know, oh, I'm not really, you know, and it is those things where if the part is not particularly dimensional, you're a widget, you know. There's a refrigerator has to be delivered. You're the guy who delivers a refrigerator. There's no, you know, they're trying to make their day. It's like, get the refrigerator guy in here. Okay. Now I was younger and I didn't have as many credits. I probably wouldn't be, you know, asked to play the refrigerator delivery guy, but I did recently just have a very tiny part based on a true story. It was half a page. They paid me as if it was a big part, so I took the gig, but I was in and out in 3 hours. Everybody's pleasant, but there's a level of let down your hairness that only comes when you get to know people. And that's the one thing about being a guest star is sometimes you don't reach that, you know.
That makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, that's just it's
you kind of need to be there, I would say, you know, for at least 3 or 4 days. After 3 or 4 days, you know, people kind of know you a little bit, and you know, you have a sense of how the set works, and you feel pretty comfy.
And that's true because all sets work differently. So you're kind of like a fish out of water because you kind of walk in, you're like, okay, how do they navigate this? You know?
Yeah. I mean, like, you know, if you have a question, you're more likely to go to I mean, usually it's the director, but occasionally the showrunner is very present, and, you know, like as not, the showrunner is making those decisions. Sometimes, you know, candidly, the number one on the call sheet, he'll give you a note. It doesn't happen very often, not to me, but you'll see it every now and again. It's like, am I taking that guy's note? But it's
am I gonna get yelled at by the director for taking this?
You know, some sets are number one sets. I mean, yeah, I don't suggest that happens frequently, but there are all sorts of power relationships that you don't understand. You know, you don't know you're on a set. Sometimes I was on a show where the leads weren't talking to each other. It's like at a certain point you go, oh, this is weird. Oh, they don't like each other. Okay. All right.
Moving on. Yeah.
I can try and fraternize with both of them simultaneously. I will fraternize with them separately. Okay.
Lesson learned. Yeah.
You know when the crews are tense, you know when the crews are happy, you know when the food is good, you know when the food is not good. You know when people are like, you know, feeling like they're on a flop, and you know when people are like riding high, they're on a hit. So many variables.
It's like an umbrella, right? Just kind of going down.
Yeah.
You never know which part.
The only thing that's different these days is because now there's so many of these kind of shorter series. You know, like I have 3 episodes now on an 8-episode Paramount miniseries. So everybody's kind of like, you know, getting to know each other, and they're only going to be together for a relatively short time. That's more akin to what making a movie is like. Those are your kind of situations where you kind of feel like everybody's in the same boat, which is kind of interesting.
I guess it might be a little bit better to know that you're not alone. You're right. So right now I'm actually going to go into my redhead alert and talk about some, you know, special information to let our listeners know about. And so, guys, this is what we were talking about. Here is the information for Trek Talks 4 at 9:45 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, hosted by our guest, John Billingsley, and the wonderful Bonnie Gordon from Star Trek Prodigy. Follow them on social media and make sure you go to their YouTube channel at Trek Talks Telethon to subscribe. And all of their information is at trektalks.net. And don't forget, there is still time to snag a Be Kind Leg Crusher design at my TeePublic store. All the proceeds of this design will go to this year's Trek Talks. And of course, I've been donning that design tonight. So please go and grab. You can get a mug, a hat, a shirt, whatever floats your boat. And I wanted to do a quick Patreon shout outs to Chuck and Leslie, who are my commander patrons, Engineer Mark, who is my admiral patron. If you would like to support the podcast and enjoy exclusive extra content, just head over to patreon.com/pressure combo and you can sign up for as low as $3 a month. And don't forget that Gates' podcast just dropped season 3 of Investigates. Listen to amazing conversations with David Ajala, Doug Jones, Jess Bush, Todd Stashbook, and many more on your favorite podcast app.
I loved doing Gates' podcast. She was so much fun.
It sounds like fun. I kind of learned a lot of like having that conversation. Like we just started talking about our cats. Like, let's go. Let's talk about our cats. You know?
No. She took me through my whole life story. She was having me tell stuff I hadn't told a soul. Some of it I just made up because I like to keep people involved. But
yeah. I expect nothing less. It's just
you tell the same stories over and over again. You got to mix it up a little bit just for your own delectation. You know?
Exactly. Even get your brain going.
I'm always curious to see if people believe anything I say. My wife is always convinced. Why does anybody believe you? Don't they know you? It's like, no, they don't. They don't understand.
That's the whole point. Keep them guessing.
This is a season in which if you're listening to Star Trek podcasts, it's like, is he on this one too? God have mercy. He says the same damn thing on every one.
So that's why. Interesting, right? We talked about cats. We talked about my uncle. Like,
I'm afraid you're going to cut that. You're going to cut that stuff.
No.
All right.
No, I promise.
Right.
Whatever could save me in editing.
All right.
All right. But like I said, if anyone wants to snag this design, go ahead and grab it. All the proceeds go to Trek Talks.
I should. Oh, they do. Thank you. I missed that part.
Yeah. So I made the design.
I love it.
Leg Crusher, and so anyone that buys the design, all those proceeds will go to Trek Talks. So
fabulous! Oh, thank you so much. I should also mention that we will also, as part of the show, have a fabulous silent auction. Our key auction items that we have a number of wonderful memorabilia packages, but there are also you have a chance to bid on a night at the Magic Castle in Los Angeles with yours truly and Bonnie Gordon as your hosts. We've done that for the last 3 years. My treat, it's always a blast. The Magic Castle in Los Angeles is a wonderful parlor of prestidigitation, a private club where there are multiple magic shows over the 4 floors of an old castle. Great food, dinners on us. You'll have a blast. Should you got to get yourself to Los Angeles. That's the only. On the other hand, if you haven't been to Los Angeles, you should come. It's fun. Maybe you'll get discovered at Shraff's. Like Lana Turner, you can become a star.
Oh my gosh. I was born and raised in California, and I went and visited my family back in March. Like I said, all my family's down there. I have my aunt who's 90 and I had a couple grandparents, and I was like, I better go see them. And it was just so interesting because here in Idaho, it's like not even 2 million people in the whole state. And then I go hit LA County and I was like, my daughter's like, there's a lot of people. I was like, this is nothing. Have you seen? We're off the 210.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I was like going to the 5 and going back and forth from Irvine. I was like, oh, I don't miss this.
No, I know it's but don't upplay the positive. Upplay the positive. It's a great place to have the beaches,
True. A lot to
the mountains. You can go from the beach.
There's a lot of places. Yeah,
it's a blast.
Don't say the beach to me. I'm not a beach fan, which is kind of funny. But like,
my favorite thing to do, because LA is, as you know, it's actually got certain things in common with San Francisco, and that there are a number of mountain ranges. One of my favorite things is something called the stairwalks, because in the eastern part of LA, which was cultivated first, to get from lowlands to higher elevations, they built these public staircases. So this guy wrote a book, and it basically is like 40 different walks you can take in which you're just climbing up and down the staircases through all these wonderful neighborhoods in the hills. It's my favorite thing to do with La Turistas from out of town. It gives you a sense of how beautiful Los Angeles really is and how many wonderful neighborhoods there are.
Oh, absolutely. I grew up in the Inland Empire.
Okay.
And so,
Beyond the Orange Curtain.
Yeah, and there was like a lot of caverns and stuff, like canyons and stuff. Loved those drives. Those were my favorites, just to kind of go in the back way and just get away from all the people that are just kind of congested in one area. So those were a lot of fun. And my husband grew up in Crestline, California, so he grew up in the mountains and stuff. Okay. Yeah, so he's a mountain man. And of course, when people say California, it's like, oh, beaches. I was like, no. I was like, valley, mountain.
It's got it all. It's got it all.
It's got everything. Yeah. So thank you, John, for joining me tonight. I loved our conversation. I can't wait for this year's Trek Talks. I will be there for the telethon and
fabulous,
seeing all those wonderful events that you have planned.
Yeah, great.
Is there anything else you want to
plug? No. I just please, it's 8 hours, so even if you can't make the whole day, I guess the other thing I would say is that word of mouth makes a big difference. So if it appeals to you and you don't mind sharing the social and the links, that would be grand. Spread the word. Even if you can't make it, if you can get some other people to come in, the more the merrier. God knows, that's what makes it wonderful. A digital event is like you don't have to count heads at the door. No, sorry, can't come in. We're full up.
Can't come in. Don't have your ticket. Can't come in.
You don't have to wear pants. That's the thing I really want to emphasize.
That's the highlight.
Yeah. You don't have to shave. You don't have to brush your teeth. You don't have to you don't have to look presentable. You can watch the whole thing in your bathrobe. If there are guests you don't like.
Or in the bathtub.
In the bathtub. Yeah. It's like you want to walk out in the middle of a panel. You just do it. And then you can come back for another panel.
And you can come back. Yeah. Just keep the video going, even if you walked out, so we get the views and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. It's all the good things about a convention without any of the bad things.
Yeah. All the walking. Run to the bathroom that's 2 miles away. We get
Whenever I did a panel at a convention, if I saw somebody get up to leave the room, I would always yell at them and track them down. I'd run after them and haul them back in the room. That won't happen to you digitally.
I think you did that to me once.
I did that to you?
I think so. I was leaving early because there was like another panel or something. I think you were like, "Hey, who's leaving?"
It was possible. I know. I when I was younger in Sprier, I would jump down off the stage and chase people down in the hallways. I only did it for a laugh, of course. You understand, but yeah.
Oh my gosh! That's
frequently what I would do is I would delegate fleet-footed, burly people to do it for me. It's like, go get her, go on, go, you, yes, you, go get her, drag her back here.
Run, call security. Run. But anyways, send your love to Bonnie for me. Absolutely adore your wife. And thanks guys for watching. Live long and prosper. Talk to you later, guys. Bye.
Crusher out.